Hello everyone and welcome back to my official The GH24 News YouTube channel. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Dante and Chase hang out in the spa's sluice room. Chase suppositions by how Dante hit the bag before that effects are better between him and Lulu. Dante admits they talked, and it was their first real discussion since she woke up. They had an honest discussion about Rocco, Charlotte and Brooke Lynn. Chase is shocked the enmity between Brooke Lynn and Lulu is still there, and Dante agrees. He's decided not to get in the middle of their issues and concentrate on Lulu being back in their lives. Chase asks if there's any news on Charlotte and Valentine. Dante says he and Lulu were talking about Rocco, and Commodity is easily going on with him, and Lulu was upset he feels she was fastening too much on Charlotte. Chase says he and Rocco have gotten close, so he could talk to him as the fun uncle. At Rocco's age, it frequently is about girls. Dante recalls that he abominated telling his mama about the girls he was dating. Their talk turns to Chase and Brooke Lynn wanting a family. Dante says he was a natural with Bailey, Lou and Violet, so he knows Chase will be a great parent. Dante also lets him know he can always talk to him. Chase thanks him, as their fellowship is important to him. At Crimson, Nina meets with Jeffrey Beckett, played by the Golden Bachelorette competitor Guy Gansert. Jeffrey is a wildlife intelligencer, and Nina is a big addict of his work. She has brought him on board to write for the Crimson Nature and Trip series. They sit down to converse before his photo shoot. Jeffrey admits that he doesn't get calls from fashion magazines, but Nina says Crimson is raying out to satisfy Compendium's interests, which include Trip and Nature. She asks how his woman or mate feels about him traveling so much. Jeffrey is single but feels he's going to meet someone soon. She decides to help acclimate his tie in case someone special sees his prints. Ava arrives and interrupts. Ava recognizes Jeffrey as he was at a benefit at her gallery many times ago for Joel Sardes. He recalls Ava and asks how she and Nina know one another. They explain they're good musketeers and have been through a lot together. Ultimately, Jeffrey has to get going, but he hopes to talk to Nina again soon. Once alone, Ava jokes, someone has moved on from Drew. Nina says she has, but she doesn't suppose she's the rugged nature type. Nina asks Ava what's up, and Ava tells Nina, as she knows, she's been floundering with her finances. Nina assumes she's then to ask her for a loan. Ava hates asking for this type of favor, but Nina says she's been staying for her to ask her, and of course, she's happy to give her a loan. She also calls this a gift, not a loan. Ava wouldn't allow that, as Plutocrat can change Gemütlichkeit, and she wouldn't lose this fellowship again. Liz brings Lucky home with her and continues to nurse him. Lucky says they're out of the sanitarium now, so she need not play babysitter, but Liz says he needs to be watched for 24 hours, and he's wedged with her, given Kevin and Laura are working right now. As they move in for a kiss, the doorbell interrupts them. It's Carly bringing a care handbasket, and asks how the idol is. Carly apologizes for shambling in but wants to thank them for stopping Cyrus, who tried to kill Michael and did kill Sam and Dex. Carly asks Lucky what he's going to do now that he's home. Lucky has no plans, so Carly leaves them to enjoy her handbasket. Once alone, they get back to where they left off and kiss. That's when Aiden walks by and realizes he's interrupted Commodity. Aiden raids the gift handbasket and learns his pater is staying then for the evening. Aiden is sad he's missing out on family time as he's staying at a friend's tonight. Lucky gratuities up at the idea that it'll only be him and Liz. At gratuities, Christina and Alexis read DeWitt's mega-hit piece on Drew in The Invader, painting him as Congressman Cutthroat and detailing everything he's done against Tracy, the Quartermaines, and Cryptgate. Alexis wonders what Drew is allowing and how they can cover Scout from him. Laura meets with Curtis in his office not just about her forthcoming press conference Sunup is covering but the hit piece on Drew. She tells him, way to go, and they grandly five. She says since he's taken office, all Drew does is disguise for the cameras and abuse his power. Curtis says Drew's biggest weakness is his need to be seen as an idol. She thinks they could exploit that. Alexis arrives to see Curtis, and Laura defenses herself. Alexis knows DeWitt wouldn't repudiate his composition, so she'd like him to run a more positive composition on Drew through Aurora to balance effects. She's upset how all this bad press will affect Scout. Curtis says Drew made his bed, so he can't help her. Still, he tells Alexis that rather of guarding Scout, she's enabling Drew. Back at Liz's place, Aiden ultimately takes off, leaving Lucky and Liz alone at last. They eventually get that kiss in. Effects get passionate, which is when the doorbell rings again. Laura arrives to check on her son. She suggests now that she's free they could each have regale tonight, and Lucky says that would be perfect. He and Liz smile at one another. Drew brings flowers to the sanitarium for Willow, and she says they should take them to the break room. He wonders if the composition got to her and if she's shamed to be seen with him. Willow says the raider is nothing but falsehoods, and it's just that she feels like all eyes are on them, so they shouldn't draw redundant attention to themselves. Willow asks if he knows who's behind the composition. Curtis doesn't, but he has his reservations. Latterly, Christina arrives to see Willow and has a favor to ask. She was videotaped drooling with Michael, and he misses the kitties. She hopes she could take some vids of the kitties with dispatches for their pater to shoot to Michael. Willow thinks the kitties would love to do it, and she thanks her for keeping her in the circle about Michael. She just asks her not to say anything negative about Drew in front of the kitties, and Christina assures her she won't. Carly soon arrives to see Willow, and is concerned about the negative press about Drew and how it'll affect the kitties. Willow says she'll let the kitties know it's not true, but Carly says it is, and Drew sunk to a new low. Drew appears and warns Carly to leave Willow alone. Carly switches out at Congressman Cutthroat, but Drew says he's not in the wrong, and the Quartermaine vault has to be moved. Carly reminds him how hurt she was when they were going to move Virginia's grave, and he was there for her. She says now he's doing the same thing to the Quartermaines. She says if he keeps this up, he'll be facing a recall. Willow defends Drew, saying Tracy is no saint moreover. Carly realizes there's no point in trying to have a calm discussion with Willow and walks off. In Portia's office, Rick says he's looked into her situation, which is much worse than he allowed. Rick explains that because these test results were tied to Heather's felonious trial, she could face jail time for substantiation tampering. Rick says her only chance is to play by Drew's rules, but Portia fears Drew is about to expose her moment. She tells him about the composition in The Invader and fears it's all over for her. Rick says she could move Drew that Curtis had nothing to do with the composition, or she could tell Curtis everything and save her marriage. Portia thinks she can save both. Portia calls Curtis and leaves a communication, asking him to stop by her office as it's important. On his way out, Rick runs into Christina and tells her that the trip she planned to take with Avery over spring break isn't passing. He says the ballet falls on Ava's day with Avery. Christina pleads that this is a one-day special event, and the tickets were hard to get. This will upset Avery, and are they really going to hurt Avery to discipline her? Rick says that coming time, she should check the timetable and walks off. Carly arrives at Nina's office as Nina's talking with Ava. Carly says they need to speak, and it's important. Ava tells Nina that it's okay and they can talk laterally. Once Ava is gone, Carly says they need to put their plan for Drew and Willow in stir now. Nina asks what she proposes they do. Carly says they've to do whatever it takes to keep Willow and the kiddies from moving with Drew. They also need to get into Drew's house and find inarguable substantiation against him that will move Willow that he's not to be trusted. Nina asks, what if there's nothing to find? Carly says that they'll make sure there's commodity to find. Back at the sanitarium, Willow finds that Sasha is her coming case. Sasha can tell Willow has a problem with her, so she tells her to spear it out. Willow asks Sasha how she can be such a fraud. She says Sasha dated Michael and is pregnant by his other uncle. Sasha says their situations are nothing likewise. Willow thinks effects didn't work out with Michael and his plutocrat, so she went after Jason's cash. Sasha points out she went from one Quartermaine to another, and she thinks that composition on Drew is really getting to her. She blew up her life, marriage and family for a sleazy politician. Drew arrives at Portia's office and is dissatisfied in her. he allowed. She could help him, but Curtis was behind the composition in The Invader. Portia tries to move him. It was him and that Curtis could have used a estimable source to run such an composition rather than go to a rag. Drew suggests she move Curtis to run a series of positive papers on him. She warns him she's gone to club for him formerly, and if she does any more, it'll cock him off. Plus, if Curtis finds out he's blackmailing her, it'll shoot Curtis to a whole other position. She thinks there must be another deal they can make. He suggests a common press conference, one with him talking about his new pediatric sports design and her representing the sanitarium. Curtis will be forced to give him good press. Ava arrives home to find Christina staying outside her door. Christina says she ran into Rick and said about she can't take Avery to the ballet and thinks this is about chastising her. Ava says Avery is still going to the ballet, only she's taking her. Christina calls her a whine. Rick appears and tells Christina to watch it, and to flash back what happened the last time she went after Ava. Christina tells them there's a special place in hell for them and walks off.